Today, our topic is going to be the following: why we should not live by instincts alone, or worshipping instincts is the animal beginning. So let's read. Why we should not live by instincts, or how not to live as the lowest form of life. How not to live as the lowest form of life. Pastor Sunday Adelaja. Why we shouldn't live by instincts, or worshipping instincts is the animal beginning. Part 1. How not to live as the lowest form of life. A testimony. I would like to say how important these topics about consciousness are for me, and to my absolute disgrace, I come to understand that quite big chunks of my life I lived in unconscious state, on autopilot, either living in the past or in the future, and my present just passed by and I don't even remember it. Who would agree that this is a fact of our life? The way we've been raised, the way we have developed ourselves, just like the whole country has lived. We were burning our life, we were destroying it, we didn't build it up. And if we're not building our own life, then let alone the kingdom of God. Even those people who are not burning their lives, those who live here and now, they still have a long way to go to building up the kingdom of God. They still need to build a lot of things inside themselves, the core, all the principles and laws, before they can start building the kingdom of God. And those people who haven't even woken up yet, what kingdom of God are you talking about? So it means that I have been building up myself and yourselves for 20 years. I was preaching as for personalities, not by a mass. I thought that I will preach to people and they will go and bring fruit, and I get upset because I am expecting fruit and I didn't even know whom I'm teaching. It's the same way as if I would give $10,000 to a 1-year child for the child to bring profit. And then I come back and the money isn't there. The money has been torn and thrown into mud and everything. So I give another 10,000. I expect profit and so on. But it's a child. The child doesn't know what to do with it. You give the money now to the child, and in 5 minutes the child leaves this place and the money isn't there anymore. The same way it works with us. When I teach you something, while you're still here, you kind of hear things. The moment you leave this audience, it's like that child. It's blown away. Just the wind blows. The moment we leave this place, we don't have it anymore. When you go to the public transport or the McDonald's or somewhere else, you don't even remember what you heard here. Because that's how biomass works. We don't even know what's going on. Let alone using the pearls that you've received here. You don't even know how to keep it. You don't have the skills to keep it, to keep the values that you receive here. So when you take the public transport, you wouldn't forget. When you get to your house where your husband drinks and the kids fight, you wouldn't forget it. But you cultivate all of it until the moment when it brings fruit. You didn't even know that we need such skills. And at the same time, the pastor thinks, what's happening? Why are people like that? And the people are like that because those are the same people. Those people are on the lowest form of life. That's why we need to work on the quality of people, so that they would first become human beings who live consciously, people who know what it means to become a personality. They make themselves a personality, and then we can start giving them instruments that they can use to build themselves up, and then we can talk about society. Next, I understand that most people are like that, but I don't feel better because of that. I don't want to daydream my life through my life. Genesis 2:7. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. Though this is just a testimony that somebody wrote to me because they heard this sermon. And yesterday we mentioned this scripture. And if you were here, then you know what we're talking about. The essence of this topic is that human beings are not animals, even though God created both. But human beings are created to be different from the animal world, and there are certain parameters that differentiate human beings from animals. But sometimes we do not even realize what the differences are, so we only take into account what we see. If we do not know what the key or the basic principle or different differences between human beings and animals are, then we will judge human beings and animals only by things we see. So we will think that animals are animals just because let me say differently. So you'll think that a human being is a human being, and the human being is above animals just because human beings have two legs, and the others they either have four legs or they even crawl. But if you think like that, then you can come to a conclusion and say that there are animals that only walk on two legs, because not all animals have four legs. So the form of moving around cannot be the defining principle to see whether it's a human being or an animal. So the outward factors are not enough. Of course, pigs are different from birds, and birds are different from snakes, because there are things, animals do differ between themselves as well. So you cannot say that if it's the being doesn't have four legs, then it's not an animal. No, the forms can be different, but so this is not what differentiates us from animals. So having two legs, that's our form of moving around, our physical structure, and that's the way we're built. But there are much deeper things that differentiate human beings from animals, and if we do not think, we will not even go into that, and we will deceive ourselves thinking, no, since I'm walking on two legs and I can communicate with the same beings, human beings like me, then I am better than any animal. But to go deeper, if you are more critical, you go deeper into this topic, then there are criteria that make human being a human being, and you'll see that 90% of people does not really differ from animals. Okay, so if we talk about some parameters that we believe that those are something that change us from animals, you'd say that we get married, we have children, but animals do the same thing. Or we can say we are concerned about our survival, we earn money, but animals also take care of their survival. They go and get food, feed their families, feed themselves, and some of them do it even better than some of them. They're more responsible about supporting their family than some men. I'm not trying to insult anybody, but it's a fact. Some animals don't beat up their wives, they do not beat them. But in Ukraine, 33,000 phone calls to ambulance are made every year because men are beating up their wives, just because he is stronger, and he doesn't understand that strength was given to him to protect, but he thinks it was given to him to beat somebody or to hit somebody. So if you look critically, then you will see that sometimes animals exceed some other so-called human beings. So your biology, it doesn't make you a human being yet. So in this scripture we can see that the main attribute that actually differs you, or was put into man to be different from animals. And here we can see that a human being has a body, but it doesn't differ them from animals, because animals also have a body. So it means that if you are more critical about it, you'll see that the body is filled with organs, and it reacts to instincts and stimuli and reflexes. So for us, we also have a body like just like animals. It means that this is something that is the same as similar to animals, which is instincts, reflexes, and stimuli. They have it because they have a body, and we have it because we have a body. And if we live on the level of the body, then we will live on the level of these things, which is instincts, reflexes, and stimuli, the same way as animals live. So they live at the same level. But if we look into this more critically, then you will see that some animals are even more successful on this level than we are at this level. For example, there are some people who would cry just because the weather is bad. Animals never cry because the weather is bad. Because some of them are more adequate than some human beings. For example, some human beings, they will start to complain about the government, and because the government didn't pay them something, some benefits, or something, or any monetary funds, whatever you call it, like social help or benefits or whatever. No animals expect any benefits from anybody. Even in this way, we will see that some animals exceed humans. There is no animal that would bring their also called like wife, like for example, lion will bring lioness in and say, I don't know what to feed you with, so maybe you should go to your mother's house. Or let's go live at your mother's house together because I don't have anything to feed you. No, animals sometimes take better care of their families than we do. Should I continue this list? It's a terrible list. This is not a very pretty picture. So even in this, in the level of instincts where we think we're not as high in our development, we are not as high. We don't do a good job. Let's take a look at eagles. Eagles have a whole system of training. Every animal has a certain system of training. For example, they throw their little birdies, from above to teach them to fly and everything. But some people who are supposed to be Homo sapiens, they raise their children in such a way that you wouldn't punish them, you wouldn't touch them. So they grow up as vegetables. And some animals even understand that they shouldn't raise vegetables. They have to be strict to give a future. But here we're so proud that we are, exceeding animals in some things. That's why some humans have come to this already. Our, people in our country who live as biomass, but they have come to a conclusion to say, no, listen, we have come to a conclusion. No, dog is the best friend of human beings. No, you don't need to have other friends. Just have a dog. They're the best friend. There's such a saying that dogs are the best friends of men. Some people don't have actual friends, but they'll have a dog or a cat. Why they don't have other, human friends? Because humans are sometimes even worse. My neighbor is even worse, or my relatives. So don't think that just because you have two legs and you move around from one place to another place, then you are a human being. It's primitive to think like that. That's why we need to know what makes a human being a human being. And that's why in this scripture tells us that we have been given instincts, yes, but our instincts were given to us to survive to the process when our mind it comes to the level of maturity, because there's a time when you were a child, or when a child is conceived in the mother's womb, and this time the child's mind things that make them a human being are not formed yet. The mind is not formed yet, because in the womb of the mother the child needs instincts and reflexes, and that's why by instincts the kid the fetus feeds itself through through mother's womb and everything. So these are the things that allow us to automatically survive. This is what you call instincts. So when the child leaves the mother's womb in 2 years, 3 years, they still do things mainly on instincts, but they are developing. So you do need instincts. There is justification for having instincts. There is another manifestation of instincts. You need them when just for survival. For example, there's a situation when there is a danger and you are able to jump, as high as you've never been able to jump. And if you just look at it, you think, my God, how could I, or if you have to react really fast, not because you thought about it, that, oh, I have to react. No, but it's just the instinct of self-preservation. Or you instinctively dress up well so you would be accepted somewhere else. That's self-preservation. Or you instinctively build relationship to keep friendships and everything. So you do many things instinctively. You find your way through circumstances just because it's inside you for your survival. So these things we need for the preservation of human race. And if it's not for those instincts, then many of us would not be alive today. Wars, and instead, in spite of instincts, how many wars have we had? We are doing all kinds of things to kill each other and to annihilate our race, but nobody wants to die because of our instincts. The fear is also the impact of instincts of self-preservation. So fear is not about being afraid of everything, not doing anything, but about preserving yourself. So if not for the feeling of fear, then you'll be on the 10th floor, and you would think, oh, it would be so wonderful to fly from up here. Flying is good. Let's fly. But it's not just you. You're afraid of fly, but even animals are afraid of heights. So you don't have to be very, very smart not to jump out of the window. It's just because you have the fear. And there are many other things. And one of the most domineering instincts is the instinct of self-reproduction, continuation of your kin. And we think that it's just God who put this into us, so we would continue our human to come for next generations to come. But you think, some people think that if because I can have children, that's what makes me a human being. And some even people think that because they don't have children, there's something wrong with them. They're not full-fledged human beings. But what have you done to be a full-fledged human being? What did you do to deserve this, to be able to have children? You just reacted to the nature's call. You had you slept with somebody and you went your way, and that's it. You didn't do anything special for this. So this is not something that would define that you are so smart or on a higher level than somebody else. You're a hero. or something. Some men say that I have my trace in every city, that meaning that they have a child in every city. Oh yeah, you think you have something to boast about. They brag. But this is not a huge thing. Any dog can do the same thing. Even a cat would still, can do the same thing. So this is not something that would, define you as a human being. So if you can grow higher than the level of your childhood, especially 7 years old, from 3 years old to 7 years old, and then to 14 years old, these are different stages when the child would be set free from the influence and the impact of instincts on their life and minimize them. Because if the child doesn't minimize the impact of instincts and emotions on their life, then it's like the child is there, but these emotions and instincts and reflexes would be superior on them and impacting them, and the child would only follow them. For example, you feel pain because somebody corrected them and they start screaming and getting offended because they don't think that, oh, maybe they're trying to help me, maybe my mom doesn't want me to grow a bad person or to reap the consequences or whatever, so thank you, mom. Only somebody who has reduced the impact of their instincts and emotions and feelings over themselves, and they started to develop themselves, they can react like that because they have developed themselves as a personality, and they can make decisions, because instincts will always knock and try to get you react and to say I'm here, but you say, okay, my instincts should calm down because I want to thank my mom. Or somebody steps on your foot in public transport and you start screaming and so on. Just like a dog will do the same. And try stepping on a dog's foot, and what will you get? So the same thing. This is the nature of human being to react like that. But if you are a personality, you will say, oh, you just stepped on my foot. Could you, kindly step off it? So this ability to uh, hold these emotions back defines whether how you have been formed as a personality. So there have to be this gradual movement from the natural animal beginning to the personality. So the first stage would be 3 years old, and 7 years old, and 14 years old. Give me that book, How to Form a Core in Your Child. So all these stages are here in this book. How to move from one stage to another, how to develop yourself, because we all have an animal beginning in ourselves, but we have to form ourselves. That's why most people don't know about this, and they don't even form this. For example, there is a woman 50 years old. You look at her and she's depressed, and what happened? Oh, my Ivan left this morning and didn't even kiss me. And your whole life you spent for this, or being depressed. Or another woman, 50, 60 years old, at work her boss said, Natalia Valentinovna, you look very well today, and she's happy, or how can I help you, and so on and so on. But then that was in the morning, and then at 2 p.m. The boss says, you didn't do the work I gave you yesterday, did you? So please, okay, go on now, go do it. And she's crying, stressed in her office, wiping away her tears. What happened, Valentina? Natalia Valentinovna. My boss, he screamed at me. But you were just happy like 10 minutes ago. It's the same person. So happy, and you're happy about this, your own boss, right? And now you're crying because of your boss. What changed? This is like a child. Have you seen the Pavlov's experiment? Reflexes. If the reflex is there, I mean, irritant is there, and you have the reflex on that. If it's something nice, you're happy. If something bad, you're depressed. So depending on the irritant, you will react accordingly. If they praised you, that's how you react. If not, you're depressed. But a mature person would react the same way for both. Oh, somebody praised me, okay, thank you, that's fine. Or if somebody corrects you and you think, okay, fine. So you are moving in your own direction, in the direction of your life. So whatever happens around you doesn't define you as a personality. Others, if you're not a personality, you will be the kind of person that would react to things around you. So somebody says something in the street, that's the kind of person you are, because that's how you react. Somebody says something at home, that's the kind of person you are, because that's how you react. Do you think dogs are so inconstant? No, they're much better. That's why you make them your friends, and you don't want to deal with your wife or with your sons. You don't want to be friends. I'm telling you, there are such people, because it's easier to be friends with a dog. And that's why this scripture tells us that, yes, you have a body, but body does make you a personality. Then a spirit as well. How should I say that? Lord, help me to say that. Pastor, come here. Let's say this is the spirit, and you come here. You look beautiful. Come here. So God first created a body. You see, very beautiful body, but that's not a personality yet. And then He created the spirit, still not a personality yet. To be valid on this earth, you need to create yourself. There has to be a moment when the human being having these two components, because you potentially have everything to become a personality, but the potential is inside you. It's sleeping on the level of subconsciousness. So human being must form their own personality. And where is personality formed? In your consciousness, in your soul. So how should I say that? And you also come here. And just way down here. So just look up here where I am. Let's say this is all one person. But just for you to understand, this is the body, this is the spirit from God. And out of these two, let's say this person's name is Sunday. Yeah? One person, one human being. What have I done? What is my effort or my work in my body to be this beautiful? What was my effort in that? What did I do for that? Did I create this body? 2 meters, 1.5 meters. What did I do? Zero. I did nothing. What was my effort to have a spirit? It's not your effort or not your work to have a spirit. It was only the work of God. You did nothing. For now, absolute zero. For now, you are an absolute zero. As long as you do something about it, God gives you the responsibility to build up yourself. And we must work on forming of our own personality, our consciousness in our soul. This is your sphere of activity. This is what you have to work on. God did His own thing. He did a body for you. He gave you the spirit. But what should you be doing? You should be working in your soul. Stand in the middle. So you have a body and the spirit, and when it comes together, there comes a soul. You get a soul, but the soul is sleeping, resting. But just because you have instinct over here in the body, you have reflexes and stimuli, and you have a spirit. That's why you move around, you live. But there is also a soul that is sleeping but still working a little bit. It's like the sleeping the sleeping existence of the soul is called unconsciousness, and you can live your whole life for 70 years and so on like this and still not even know that you're not a personality, because everything all you have, your work and moving around, looking, touching and everything, you think you're living. You go to work, you have children, and not because you deserved that, not because you finished a university to learn to sleep or to have children or to marry or to have a job. No, all of that, you have it automatically. But to become conscious, then you have to stop, you have to study yourself and understand yourself, and then move. And as you are developing, as yourself, your true self is starts to grow and become higher than your instincts and reflexes. It will become stronger than your reflexes and stimuli, and you become the master. And then this soul connects with the spirit, and there it starts to receive information from the spirit and do something on earth, and the body follows. But his personality, cooperating with the spirit, is strengthened, and it tells what the body should do to live on this earth. This is active consciousness. Do you understand this example? Thank you. Help the girl, please. Okay, let's go on. We were born to be intelligent. God created humans as intelligent beings, because the life of human beings started from the birth of their consciousness, their soul. You remember when the human being, the man, was lying down, it wasn't moving, it was the body, it wasn't a personality yet. When the spirit was breathed into the body, nothing still yet happened. But when there was the union of the body and the spirit, then soul was formed as a result. The Homo sapiens, the intelligent man, then the body became a living soul. The same way it works in life. We have all of this in us potentially. When our consciousness is woken up, and depending on how much awakened we are, that's how much of a personality we become. And then the level of development of our consciousness defines the level of us as personalities. Otherwise, you can live your whole life and there would be consciousness, but just on the level of subconsciousness. And you are training your spirit, but the spirit cannot apply this information in life, because the spirit cannot live, cannot do anything in the physical world. So if you develop yourself spiritually, you can do it as much as you want, but it will not bring any change. Or you'll live on the same level as animals. But our calling is not to remain on the level of animal who do things automatically, smiling and bread and visions and entertainment. That's all you want. It's all the same things. That's why we have to get out of this vicious cycle and start building ourselves up. Then that's when we will start living, because the life of a human being started from the birth of consciousness, their soul, that happened at the moment when God breathed his spirit into the human being, and the human being became a living soul. Therefore, human being becomes a human being only as soon as they start using their consciousness. When a human being doesn't use their consciousness, they stop being a human being. Did you understand this? So he keeps on moving around, running around, getting married, having jobs and everything, but all of that is done on the level of instinct. The human part is not included. is not used. What is subconsciousness? Even though human beings have consciousness, there is also subconsciousness. Subconsciousness is the baggage of the past, the combination of all the knowledge received, feelings and emotions. Subconsciousness is the experience of the past that it remains in the mind of the person and is inactive. Life on the level of subconsciousness. The level of subconsciousness is life on the level in the state of comfort and calm. This is life without any extra efforts. This is life on autopilot. This is life on reflexes, and this is life by instincts and stimuli. The easy way is the way to slavery. The person who lives on the level of subconsciousness is in slavery to their own flesh. You know what instinct is? Just look at the example of the dog of Pavlov's dog. Maybe something that something you have inside of you automatically. But reflexes is your reaction to irritants. If somebody offends you, you can't even think that love doesn't irritate. If somebody offends you, you remember your value. Love doesn't get irritated or offended, so I don't get irritated. I don't get offended, and you go on doing what you were doing. So there are stimuli to irritate you, and you either start. Okay, let me say different. I just went to the court where people accuse me, even though I'm innocent. It's all illegal. Do you think it's not painful to me? Do you think I don't feel violated? I do, but I know that I'm a human being, I'm a personality, and I'm supposed to forgive my enemies, love my enemies, and bless those who curse me. That's it for me. But there's other people who go to court, and after court they can't work. They come back home and they're angry. Oh, what happened? Oh, I've been called to court, and everybody gets depressed around them. Not only that he's depressed, but he starts spreading his depression and whining about these things. So you can't live anymore. This person is not, he can't do anything because that's how distracted they are. So these things must not define our actions, because if you have values, your values will define your reactions. So the values that you've built inside yourself in your active consciousness, then when there are irritants around you, there are situations around you, then you will react according to those values. That's why I wrote this book. I thought that I wrote this book for children. Me and Tatiana Sushko wrote this book, and this morning I looked through this book. I read this book again, and I understand it's more for adults, because many people around among us, even though we are adults, we don't have this in us. We don't have a core in us, and that's what happens. Something happens, and we are so upset, and in half an hour, 2 hours, in even one day, we remember, oh, I wasn't supposed to get upset like that, because there is no core in you. So this book will help you to develop a core, not only in your child, but also in yourself. First in yourself and then in your child, rather. So a human being who lives on the level of subconsciousness is a slave to their own flesh. They always avoid troubles and discomfort in their life. They always look for easy ways. But avoiding problems and discomfort, the person is not able to change, because their consciousness is not awakened for active life. Listen, what is instinct and so on, and why 95% live by instincts? Because you don't have to make any extra effort. To read books, you have to make an effort. To buy a book, you need make an effort to find money and so on. To work and achieve some success, you have to make efforts. To make the word the part of your flesh, oh, it's huge. effort and a lot of work to go into solitude even more. So why should I make all these efforts? I can just, bit by bit, I just go about my life making minimal efforts. And this is what we call animal beginning. That's why God allows problems and troubles in our lives, because when you don't want to make an effort on your own, your consciousness will never wake up. That's why God from time to time throws problems and troubles and difficult circumstances and crises at us, so at least to make us react. Maybe we'll understand it at certain point of time. Crisis is God's tip to us that it's time to become a personality. And when we have not become a personality, we cannot fulfill our calling. That's why God allows problems and difficulties, so that it would at least make us think that all the problems and crises and everything we're experiencing they are there to help us, to push us towards the next level of consciousness, not just for us to solve the problem and that's it. Because what should our attitude to problems, what is our attitude to problems? It's just to solve it and move on. No, but that's not the actual uh, meaning of every problem. Every problem is supposed to push me for me to see where have I been in comfort, where I've been too calm and not achieving anything, not doing anything. So I shouldn't pray, Lord, remove this problem. I should pray, Lord, don't remove this problem until I have changed, until I have moved from the place where I got stuck. This should be our attitude to problems, because we usually, the moment problems come, we want them to leave. But God knows that the place of your comfort is the place of your death. Who of you have seen the cardiograms? They go up and down like a zigzag. So that's what your life should be like. As long as your heart beats like that, then you are alive. It's considered to be good. But some people don't want to go up and down. Why should I put some efforts? It's too high. Go up. It's like But instead of peace, look, anybody who has been to the hospital, if you're absolutely in peace, you will have this straight line. And congratulations, you don't jump up and down anymore. We can see you off to your coffin, and then the cemetery. But this is the peace to which most of mankind is striving for, and we want to go there, but God holds us back. He gives you problems and everything, but you don't want to deal with it. That's why you die, you get sick, you perish. That's why you are humiliated. And when God thinks, oh, there is no point, just no point, and he just stops working, and then maybe God thinks maybe his child will try to do something. Next, Romans 8:12-13. Therefore, brethren, we are debtors not to the flesh, to live according to the flesh. For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if you by the Spirit you put to death the deeds of the body, you will live. Characteristics of a human being who live on the level of subconsciousness. The person who lives on the level of subconsciousness are guided by their instincts, and their actions are defined by exterior factors. Living by exterior factors is the level of biomass, because when a person lives on the level of the external world, they are on the level of biomass. Such a person doesn't subject their actions to a certain goal or principles or values, but on the contrary, they follow their circumstances which dictate how to live. What does it mean that a person lives by exterior circumstances or guided by instincts. The external factors is not, for example, my inner created or developed by me, formed by me, inner core or values that would define my actions. But my actions are defined by the things that are happening outside me. For example, for many people to feel the anointing and the grace of God and peace, they must come to church first. Church is good, but it is the external factor or influence. You need it, but its goal is not for you to come here and receive peace or experience peace and then come here. It's so wonderful to be here. But the purpose or the goal of you coming here is to form these values inside of you that you will then go home and work on them, and so you can hear something here to then hold it inside of you and then work on it, that it will become your inner strength. But what have we turned church into? We have turned it to a place where you can come and receive, not to build it up later. We never build up anything later. We come here and we say, oh, I feel better, it will last me a week. But sometimes it will not last you a week, maybe not be enough till next Sunday, and you come to a pastor and you say, I don't know, maybe I should start coming here on Wednesdays or something. So you come here so that the external things make you feel good, so it would form you. But you are supposed to receive something here, then go and work on yourself to form the corresponding values, that you've heard, and now you build it inside of yourself, and then it will not matter whether you are in the church or at work or in bus or in the metro. If you have formed these values inside of yourself, then you'll have it. For example, love and patience. You don't get irritated. You bless people. You have peace inside of you. Then you become the bearer of these things, and it will be inside of you. You need to come with me when I go to court. You will not believe it. I feel like home there, because it doesn't matter for me where I am, whether it's the court or the police or the home or in the streets. It's all the same for me. How did it happen? It's because I have allocated time to create the values inside of me, because the people of biomass don't have the time to sit down and create and build inside themselves values. They don't have the time because they have to run to and fro. They need things to influence them from the outside. Another example, biomass lives by external things. What does it mean? It means that you wake up in the morning, you have something to eat, you have your shower, and you're looking for things to do on the outside. You're not looking on the inside. What's my goal? What's my purpose? My calling? What should I be doing? What am I created for? Where should I be going and doing things? So out of your inside, and the goal on your inside, you will define your actions. But what biomass does, nobody's calling me, I don't know what to do. What should I do today? And they're like drug addicts looking for drugs, running around. Somebody is supposed to call them or do something for them. Oh, what happened there? What are the news over there? What should they can't find the peace inside themselves, because they have not created inside themselves nothing. And that's why they have to live by impressions and opinions of others and so on. Do you see what I mean? Or for example, women, a wife. Oh, my husband and kids have gone, I don't know what to do. They went, to the seaside. What should I be doing these days? The person isn't there because the husband isn't there. And then you're calling your husband, oh, when are you going to be home? When are you coming home? Because you need the husband to be around. Then you have something to be happy about. But how did you live before you met him? Oh, the kid went to a summer camp or something. And you call your child all the time to ask how they're going. Not because it's important to know how he's doing. It's because you need to be busy. Because everything is fine over there, but you're worrying. You don't feel whole because the kid is not around. So the external things influence. You see, everybody is giving me signs that I have to go. I know I have to go. You see, the pressure they're experiencing. I'm the one who's supposed to be in the court. Don't worry. I know when I need to go. So the external things, or for example, these people are worrying. Why are they worrying? Because, oh, something is going to happen, something is going to happen. You shouldn't worry ever. Because your peace is not defined by external things. Because if that's the way it is, then whatever happens outside you, you lose your peace. But it has to be the other way around. Your peace must define what happens around you. Do you start to understand what I'm talking about? This is biomass live by the instincts and emotions. This is a person who has not formed an alternative. Example 1. When a person is hungry, they will go and eat, as opposed to a person who lives consciously. Because the person who lives consciously, they will ask themselves questions. Is this food good for me or not? Do I need to eat right now? What for? What's the goal for it? Such a person will eat to strengthen their body, for a certain amount of work. Second example, when a person is mature physically after 20 years old, they marry because the time has come, as opposed to a person who lives consciously. Because the person who lives consciously marry only when he has a plan for their future family, because and so in other words, he moves on consciously. They live consciously. Okay, so let's discuss these two examples that we've had. The first example was about food, when the person consciously makes the decision. This is so close to us, right? As we're fasting, and we consciously have stopped eating, we're not eating, we're fasting, and just in this we can see that because of this we can tell that we are moving to conscious state of mind and so on. Pastor, can you please explain these examples, what you think? Yes, that's true. Because at least in my example, I have been taught to eat in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening. So automatically, whether you're hungry or not, you must have your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner. And between those, maybe you should have a cake or some ice cream, because that's how it's done, and you don't even realize that you live not you're not living a conscious life. You're moving by subconscious, and it harms your life. And not only you do that, but you pass it on to the next generation. They will pass it on to the next generation. So that's why what pastor is teaching is so important, because it applies to all spheres of life. So, because if order will not come in the way we eat, then the order will not come even in our thoughts. Because one thing we accept something physically, another thing when we look and accept something for our soul. So if we have no order in our food, we will not have order in the way we work on our thinking, and that's why we should work on ourselves. Maybe somebody else wants to add something. The bishop just came, probably he doesn't know what we're talking about. Maybe the second example then. Okay, the second example. Yeah, just one more little thing I wanted to add to the first example is actually this is a huge topic, especially for Christianity, the things we should eat, because God gave us health, and if we don't become human being, the true personalities, we will destroy our health with our own hands. So the ability to think and choose between a cake and an apple, I believe this is something that defines whether I'm personality or not. So let us look at the second example. Thank you. Only at 47 years old, I actually realized I should eat less meat. So the second example is getting married. So the person who lives by their, in their subconscious mind, they think, oh, everybody gets married, so why should I even go to the registry office, to the courthouse and get married? Let's just live together. Because I also got married when I was not a believer yet, so the time came and we got married. But I thank God for these teachings, so you don't have to, at least those who listen to this teaching, they will not have to repeat the mistakes that people like me made these mistakes, because as life goes by, you have to correct those things. It's best to do things right from the beginning than to correct them, having to correct them later. So especially now, the summertime is the best time to talk about this, because by experience I see that usually during the summertime we as pastors see different movements around the church, because the subconsciousness is having fun, but we must bring ourselves to conscious mind and build a stronger church and strong future. Maybe somebody else wants to add maybe your own examples or something. Yes, I think we should read the slide and then comment. Should we read example 2? Example 2. When a person physically is mature after 20 years old, they get married not because because the time has come, as opposed to the person who gets married who lives in consciousness. Because the person who lives in consciousness gets married when they have a plan for their future family, their children, and in other words, they act consciously. Yes, my friends, and in Christianity it mostly happens in the following way, especially men. Men, they open the the epistle to Corinthians. If you can't if you can't discipline yourself, then you should get married, something like that. And usually this is the stimuli to create your own family. So the man says, I can't discipline myself anymore, it's so tiring. Discipline yourself in this particular area. And I think Pastor Sunday mentioned that every man experience about 500,000 temptations and sexual temptations every year. But at the same time, the man doesn't know what he's called to, doesn't know how to support even himself, let alone supporting a wife and children. At the same time, you don't have a profession, you don't have your own house, you bring your wife to your parents and say, could you move a bit, because you'll sleep in one side of the room and we'll sleep in the other side of the room. It may sound funny, but we live in similar circumstances. We live in a country where people are moved by instincts. People say, women say, I'm 20 years old, I'm an old woman, I don't want to I'm still not married. Because people are looking for ways to kill time, where to go, what to do, and that's why catastrophe happens, and we can see it, what is happening. And within 5 years, out of 10, every 10 marriages end up in 8 divorces, and these are the people who would carry each other, in their hands in the first month of their marriage. they would daydream about each other. And why do we have such a huge contrast that sometimes they adore each other in the first month and they hate each other in half a year or a year? So what Pastor Sunday is talking about today, of course, people who are close to Pastor Sunday, we cannot comment and pass on the information the same way he does, but because each of us have our own style, but let us still consider this and analyze this, even though Pastor Sunday is not here right now. So people are supposed to create families only when they know what they're called to, only when you can live in such a way that you would have money, because money is a proof that you are adequate. You know what to do with your life. Like I live and my life is effective, also including having money, because silver is responsible for everything. And so which means you are formed, you know what a family is all about. You not only know the physiology of women because you've checked some websites, but you also know psychology, and you know what family is all about. You not only know about responsibilities of a family life that is given to you by these worlds, that says that the woman's place is in the kitchen and in the bed, and you as men, you should work. No, there is much more to that than this. And only after you've got to know all of this and you are in your conscious mind and you know what family is, and if you still have the desire to get married, then you should propose to a woman and get married. Maybe somebody wants to add something. I want not to add, but maybe let us work with this topic. The second example. Who has noticed that in the last years, maybe 3, 4, 5 years, pastor has been talking about family in a very harsh way, about relationships? Have you noticed? Okay. So why do you think he started speaking about it like that? Because Pastor Sunday is teaching us to think and analyze. So even 15 years ago, he didn't speak about relationships and marriage so harshly. If he speaks like that today about men and creating a family, why? Why Pastor Sunday started speaking like so demanding to creating families today? Because Pastor Sunday knows the reality and the statistics of divorces, as Pastor Anton Litvin just mentioned. Okay, he knows, and what then? Pastor Sunday is a personality with an active consciousness, and he sees a problem and he immediately finds the ways to solve this problem for the whole society. Thank you. Do we agree with Oksana? So, Pastor became demanding not because he feels like it suddenly. He became demanding not because he has the crisis of middle age, or, he didn't become demanding because he just wants to be so demanding to men of the Embassy of God Church. No, Pastor Sunday sees the statistics, he sees the problem in the society, and he wants to bring solution, and the solution has to start here, because we didn't used to have divorces in the church, or really, really rarely. And now here in our church we have, quite often people get divorced. But in the church it has to be taboo. And we have relaxed and, got to sleep, fell asleep, living by our subconsciousness. And women, come up with ideas, men come up with ideas, and they find the second, third wife in the church. And what Pastor Sunday is doing is just to solve the problem. We need to learn from him, and if believers do not change, then what can we expect from the world? So it's not bad to get married. It's not like Pastor Sandra doesn't want us to get married. No, we even from for 14 years old, boys needs to start thinking what will happen in life. How am I going to support my future family, my future wife? So from 14 years old, boys need to become active and serious and study well and learn how to earn money. So by the time they want to get married, they will have everything. So imagine you are 20 years old, you have only have a desire to get married. You don't even know how to solve difficult issues, where to find money, and so on. So let us think about it, and as believers, let's start solving these issues. We need to have order in families, and those of us who already have a family, if Pastor Sunday demands from those who want to get married, you have to think, even if you're married, if Pastor Sunday is so demanding to those who only want to get married, we have gotten married, what should our attitude be? So when Pastor Sunday gives conditions to those who want to get married, if you are already married, what should your attitude be to this? Do you have any attitude to this at all? I think every one of us must analyze ourselves, our family, and read those books and the truths that Pastor Sunday has been working on, and then compare whether we correspond to that truth. If we do, then we move on to the next book or next material. If not, then we have to, analyze ourselves and change, but not leave it be. We must have development in any case. Otherwise, the devil wants the families to fall apart, but your family must be, your tower in, if you have disorder at home, you won't be able to bring order anywhere else. To what Pastor Bosse mentioned, obviously the judgment starts from the house of God. So if Pastor Sunday has seen that we ourselves have a problem, so why should we talk about the world and then say how the world should be if we ourselves have a problem? So when Pastor Sunday is teaching about the relationship of future married couples, then the present married, the way I, as a married person, I see it that how do I treat my wife today? So the essence of all this is how do we understand the truth? We understand the light. This is the essence that we see here, what Pastor Sunday is teaching us. And above all, this is the way we have to see, do I correspond to this? Because if I don't correspond to this, then I need to change. And I believe that this is our way, that will take our whole life, and our whole life there will be things we can become better in. So if whether you're married or you're not married, if you're still about to get married, in some churches, people are praying about getting married every service for people to find each other, and so on and so on. I think Pastor Sunday took the best way, because faith is the expectation of the invisible. You shouldn't pray, you should expect. But how do you expect? By preparing yourself. So some churches, they pray every service for people to get married and have children. Yes, you can do all of that as well, but I think the best way is to prepare yourself. Not to pray to get married, but to prepare yourself to get married. Not to bring children, pray for having children, but to prepare for having children. Those created by the Creator. We are created by the image of our Creator in order to produce our own life activity from the inside out. In other words, from the invisible to the visible. The same way our Father, Heavenly Father, did it, not the other way around. That's why Homo sapiens must bring forth their plans and goals from the inside out and put them into life. Every action of an intelligent man have to be guided by the inner values and persuasions and the truths that are inside, and the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of God who is inside. Genesis 1 to 5. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. Not by bread alone. A human being is created to live by guidance of the Holy Spirit and not by the external factors. That's why Jesus said in Luke 4:4, "But Jesus answered him, saying, It is written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word of God." When a human being starts to live by bread alone, i.e. by external things, such a person becomes biomass. And then the external irritants define his or her actions and the things they feel, see, and the things that happen with them, but not their inner values. I'd like to comment on that. Indeed, everybody must work from inside out. We are all created by the image of God, and one of the facets of God is that He is a creator. And if we are His image, then we must be transformed in this direction and become creators and builders, so which means to create from the invisible into visible, not just to adjust to the things happening around us, the events happening, but to build. But in order to build things in the physical world, you first need to create something here, up in your mind. So how does God work? God speaks in the spirit into the life of man. This is what the scripture says, that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word coming from the mouth of God. So every word will strengthen our spirit, but this every word also gives us guidance. And if God has spoken to us in the Spirit, giving us a revelation, then the next important thing we need to do is to think how to realize this revelation. This is what I've always been telling people who are close to pastors. A church shall not be guided by an advice. A church is guided by the revelation which God gives to those whom He set as a head. And when a pastor receives this revelation, he calls for a council, because God reveals His truths when in a council. So then he says, "This is the word that God gave me, and let's discuss how we're going to carry it out." And that's where the visions and plans come from. The same thing happens in personal life. First, you need to hear from the Spirit, from God, and then use your brains to build up a way how to achieve it, how to carry it out. And then all of us, we gain certain skills. We need to learn. This demand that we spoke about yesterday comes in because you have a goal that you received from the Spirit, and you start seeking in your subconsciousness, maybe for some experience that can help you. You start seeking in some external factors, maybe books and audio and video, maybe friends, people you have built relationship with. So you start living consciously, you start seeking in order to build, because to do things, to build things, doesn't mean to prophesy. Prophecy is one of the stages, yes, but then you need to work. And that this is what we're talking about here. So my friends, indeed, consciousness comes when we hear something from God, and then we set a goal, and then we start thinking how to achieve it. This is what I always think. I always say that you first work something on yourself, and then you help others. One thing, what to do to save drug addicts, but then another thing is how to do it, because you can do it in different ways. Do you agree with me? That's why we go into solitudes. That's why we fast, to change ourselves first, to transform ourselves, to reevaluate and maybe change our lives, be sincere, with yourself and judge yourself, but not to think about others who have come to hear the word. You have come to hear the word. Let's go on. The word by the life by the word. We are not created to be guided by our feelings, for example, emotions or selfishness. We are created so that our inner values would direct us in our life. When we live by the Word of God, we are driven by the Holy Spirit and God's values. My friends, our inner values must correspond to God's values. Do you see what I mean? Our inner values must not be formed by ourselves. They must correspond to the scriptures and to the will of God. And if God says, "Love me with your whole heart and your whole strength," then our first commandment for all of us must be our value, which is to love God. I'm sure all of you have been to HMTs or other programs like that, and you know what values are all about. Value is something that you're ready to die for, but since you have not been asked to die for it, you end up living only for it. You see what I mean? So if God is your value, you don't need to die for him, then you will live only for it. If your value is your wife and you don't need to die for her, then okay, I only live for her. If you don't need to die for your children as for your value right now, then you'll only live for them. If you don't need to die for your church because as your value, then you will just live only for her. We're not going deep into this. You've all heard this in HMTs. You can always have access to it. So what are we talking about here? It tells us that we're not supposed to be guided by our feelings today. Oh, I want to eat now, so what should I stop fasting and go and fast? I want to sleep. What should I leave the audience and go? There are many spots you can go and sleep under a tree or something, behind the stage or something. I want to. You can't be guided by the things you want. You have to be guided by your inner values. If God and his will is valuable to me, then why wouldn't I pay a certain price in spite of my discomfort and in spite my feelings don't want this, and or feel hungry or sleepy or whatever? I discipline myself because I'm not an animal who is moved by instincts and moods. I am a person, a human being who is guided by values. If I am absolutely honest to myself, then all I do is I do this, what I want to do in spite of what I feel. Why? Because God is valuable to me. I want to please him, and it is valuable to me to fulfill his will for which he has created me. And he allowed me to live here on this earth after he had saved me. He didn't take me to heaven. Let's go on. The power of inner values. When we live only by our inner values, the truth that was put inside of us, then we will be able to keep the love for people irrespective of their actions. Luke 6:35. But love your enemies. We as Christians must love people irrespective of their attitude to us. And that's true, my friends. If our value is God and his will, or our salvation, if we really do value it, if we don't have to die for it today, then okay, I will live only for that, just out of principle. We must clearly understand that the sacrifice of the unrighteous is iniquity before God. Have you read this scripture? So, what do you think? Is the person who lives with hatred, maybe it's nationalistic, for nationalistic reasons or any other reasons, just hatred to other people, would such a person be righteous before God? Have we not read that only those who are pure in heart will see God? So it means that if we are moved by hatred, to other people, and we're not able to love our enemies, then, my dear friends, our prayers are useless. We have been weighed on the scales and we've been found light. I have been watching what's happening, and what Pastor Ruslan has mentioned today. We can make an example. All this hatred towards people who are taking one side of the military conflict happening today, or people taking another side, whether we want it or not, the society have been divided on this basis. Depending on whether it's the south or east of Ukraine or the rest of Ukraine. Indeed, if we do not understand this simple truth that we are a third, power, we're not from the highest or the lowest, if we don't understand this, we will turn into nationalists. And I do not think that nationalism is from God. Nationalism only cares that their nation is good. A patriot will do everything to do good for their own land, irrespective of nationality. Do you see the difference between nationalism and patriotism? So we must be patriots of our own country, not more, not less. So even if you made, somebody took a position that it doesn't fit us, remember this example from the Bible. I think his name was Ahaz, who was he was serving at the royal court. Ahav, the husband of Jezebel, was it? And when the time came, how many prophets did he save? Who read the Bible? He saved 100 prophets, and he fed those 100 prophets. 100 prophets. Who read this in First Kings? So please do not judge those people who take a side of something else, another side than you. You don't know what mission God has prepared for them. Why do you think it's written in the book of Revelation, I know that you live where there is the throne of devil? Do you think there shouldn't be people serving God among those people? What if there are people who also need a chance to be saved? Just a simple example, easy to understand for somebody who lives in post-Soviet countries. What do they say about those policies, working among Germans, and who was killing them? Those Germans, those people serving among Germans during who was killed? They were killed by their own people, not knowing the essence of that. They're actually their own spies in the among the enemy. So if you don't know things, people see, people think that from Russia, they think that the throne of the devil is in Ukraine. Ukrainians think the throne of the devil is in Russia. Please do not be deceived. Do not be the sacrifice of the mass media war. We don't know the mission of each person, wherever they are, the mission that God trusted unto them on this earth. And maybe somebody will have to be that Ahab in First Kings, who was next to Jezebel, and everybody knows who Jezebel is, right? But if he wasn't there, if not for that person, then 100 prophets would not have been saved at the times of the prophet Elijah. So whether you want it or not want it, it's not about your feelings. Do you think it's easy for me to love my enemies, or I don't have feelings to my enemies? Not apart from hatred, I don't have any other feelings. Maybe you're more spiritual than me, but that's how it works with me. Whether apart from hatred, I don't have any other feelings towards them. But, when God says that I should love my enemies, then it must be my value. And that's why in spite of my feelings, maybe sometimes against my desire, I pray and I bless them, because this is the will of God. I use my will to love my animals. I'm not an animal, so if they bite me, I'll bite them back, and then I use my brains to think, oh, should I have beaten them or not? No, I use my will, and in spite of my feelings, I overcome my inner state of discomfort, and I love them in the name of Jesus. I love them and I bless them, and I work on myself until I get to such a state. And then after that, I do start loving them after a while, because God will never give you more than you can bear. God doesn't look at the emotional state in which you are. God looks at that decision that we have made. at the moment when we are faced with our enemies, will I love my enemies till the end, even if I don't want it or not? God will never give you more than you can bear. He will always give the grace, and right on time he will give you to feel love towards your enemies. But even if you don't have such a feeling, then at least you will not feel hatred or offense, and it's good, and that's good indeed. I just remembered Pastor Sunday emphasized one thought, very strong one. He said the Spirit of God is in us, and the life of God in us, in me, doesn't mean yet that this life of God is my life. And I was thinking about it. So if the fact that God's life is in me doesn't yet mean that it's my life. I have to make this life of God my own, which means that the things that we're supposed to be doing is for this truth and the values and the word of God, we because these truths are in God, but they're not mine yet. These values are in God, these values are in my spirit, but I don't live like that because they're not mine yet. I don't like my enemies, I don't love them, I want to kill all of them. I'm talking about from the human point of view, but it's not the position of God, which means, this I will define, here are my enemies, here are my friends. I don't speak with my enemies, I only speak with my friends. But God said that we should love our enemies, which means I have to work on myself. And it's work, it's hard work. So to make these values my own, which means I would be guided not by my, how to say that? Yeah, not my own feelings or instincts, but I would make myself to allow God's love, God's life to be mine. So this is what I wanted to add. Yeah, so from inside out. So I don't wait for people to love me, I will love first. So I will not be moved by the external things, but by internal things. Thank you. Example 1. When one person has betrayed us and we stopped trusting all people in general, it means that external actions define our decisions and behavior. However, in spite of how other people behave toward us, we must always be driven by God's values, which are inside of us. My dear friends, when one person has betrayed us and we stopped trusting all people in general, what can I say? Sometimes in our life, there are a certain circle of people that we fellowship with, and if there is a person in this circle who betrayed us or did something wrong to us, what usually happens if we don't live according to the values, consciously according to the values, then this is what happens to us. We start treat all our circle of friends as potential betrayers. Then sometimes violating the presumption of innocence, we just expect things to happen, and that's how we change our attitude to other people. Jesus had only one betrayer in his team, but it doesn't mean that he treated all the 12 after he had been betrayed. He would treat the rest of the 11 people as potential betrayers. No, if out of 10 lepers, 9 were ungrateful, but 1 was grateful, but it doesn't mean that you have to treat all people as ungrateful. That's why, my friends, whatever happens with you doesn't have to influence your attitude to all people. If one person betrayed you, 10 people are fine, are normal people. 5 people betrayed you, 15 people are fine, and I was always saying this, that if you don't find this in this life people, if you find a person who will always be on your side, you're lucky, because all people look for things of their own. So if you find in your life at least one person who will always be there on your side, you're lucky. So let's call a spade a spade. People are looking for things of their own. So never get stuck on, reaction of people at me, at you. So if I ever am driven by something, it will only be my inner values, my inner man, that whom I form through pain and discipline and self-education and communicating with the right people. So I work on myself, I form myself using my own values and principles. So the combination of a personality is the values and the principles that you are driven by in certain situations, and these values and principles are always above your feelings and reflexes. This is what Pastor Sunday has been talking about today, and this is something you need to form and build, because otherwise it's very easy to even get be thrown into prison. Somebody hits you, you hit them back, the person dies, and you go to prison. Emotions just overwhelmed you, and we have half people in the prisons are like that. They didn't mean to do things. So if somebody betrayed you, so what? Love your enemies. Peter also betrayed Christ. So what? Judah came and kissed Jesus, and Jesus says what? He said, "My friend." What did you want, and how did you say he say that? He kissed him. So Jesus said, "My friend, what you decided to do, just do it. Just do it quickly." So Jesus responded to his kiss. He didn't say, "Ah, get out, get off me," or something. "You're a betrayer," or something. He didn't say that. So my friends, and most of the time, most of the sufferings we have in our life is because of relationship. And usually the most wounds we have in our life is because of relationship. Maybe somebody didn't value enough, or wasn't grateful to you enough, or they didn't do things you expected, and so on and so on. This pain, 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 pain. And then sooner or later you just become lonely. You get dogs as your friends, you kiss them. And have you heard that people would leave an inheritance of millions to their pets? What the pets are going to do with them, it's how much do you need to be disappointed in people to leave $1 million to your dog? Have you read about it? So instead of sending this million into research of cancer or something, no. So all of this, they are guided by outside factors. God's values in me will define how I reacted to you, but this is hard work. This is incredibly hard work. I always tell guys and girls, when a guy tries to come on to you, first you look at how the guy reacts at other people, and then you will know how he will react at you and what the attitude he will have to you. Because yes, definitely at first he will want to carry you on his hands, but after 6 months he will be different. The everyday life will come. So if he doesn't behave well to other people, he will not behave well to you. 100%, yeah. Amen. I also wanted to give you such an illustration. When somebody offends you and you get offended, you can imagine such a situation. As you were walking in one direction and you needed to go there, you had a goal, but then somebody dictates you or orders you to go in a different direction, absolutely different direction. So for example, you were going to the bathroom, and they told you to go to the podium, but you needed to go over there. That was your plan, and according to your principles, you were walking over there, but then somebody starts to order you or to command you to go into different directions. So because of the outward external irritant, you change your direction. That's how people without a goal live. So, and that's when their life depends on anybody, just anybody who offends them or doesn't love them or whatever else. That's why if I am a personality and I have a goal and I have principles, according to which I live, then I am able to be immovable from my course, from my direction, whatever comes. Thank you. Example 2. If a wife cheated on on her husband and he decided to divorce from her, then he is moved by external circumstances and not by inner values, because a husband must be driven by the word he gave to her in the beginning: I love you and I will love you always. Love is an unchangeable value. It's the truth. And if we have stopped loving, which it means we are not living by our inner values. God is love, and His essence will never change. 1 Corinthians 13:8. Love never fails. Values, the value of the inner guidance. When we remove our eyes from the inner guidance, we start to be driven by external factors, and we move to the level of instincts, in other words, to the level of animal world. For example, in the beginning of creation of the world, Adam and Eve were moved by inner guidance, the Word of God. But when Eve moved her eyes from the Word of God, because of the serpent, she started to be guided by the external factors, the fruit of the tree in the Garden of Eden. Age differences in forming of consciousness. A child must start living by inner guidance from the age of 7. Nature itself pushes the human beings to live by inner guidance, to define their values and plans. And the stage of forming of consciousness starts in teenage age, from 12 or 14 years old. Often it happens in the form of rebellion and resistance and desire to do everything in their own way. And this state is very much like the state of a butterfly which is trying to be free from the cocoon. Life in freedom. A child who is like a butterfly is growing and developing inside of their cocoon, trying to get rid of the care of their relatives and close people. They are like in the state of sleeping, and when they're formed as a personality, they break the cocoon and they fly out to the free. And their deformed personality is created to fly and live in freedom, because God created everyone by His image and likeness to be free beings. Peculiarities of teen age. In teen age, the desire to live in freedom is often manifested through rebellion, irritation, insisting on one's own opinion, and desire to do everything in one's own way. In order to avoid problems in relationships between teenagers and parents, even from 7 years old, you must start forming inner values in the child. What is the danger of rebellion? Rebellion is an active protest which is expressed in aggressive form towards certain people or events. Instead of working on building inner values, rebels are busy with outward war with people around, and not having a good example around them, they become similar to things they see around themselves. People who do not have formed values in them show rebellion, and as a result they become like the society around them and become the society's slave. The person who is subject to guidance of instincts. The person who worships instincts is subject to external influence. The external factors dictate their will to such a person and guide their life. If the person who worships instincts pleases their own flesh and their ego, because their ego dictates the thoughts which push them towards certain decisions and actions. A person who worships instincts does everything automatically, mechanically, doesn't know how to analyze. The person who worships their instincts cannot treat themselves critically. How are instincts, how is the instinct of self-preservation manifested? People who act under the influence of the instincts of self-preservation care about their own comfort, they dress up well, they eat well, they have best vacation time and rest. They always take care about being accepted by their surrounding. That's why they wear fashionable clothes and study well. They take care of supporting themselves, and in order to avoid loneliness, they make friends. The instinct of self-preservation will not allow you to please God. People who are moved or driven by the instinct of self-preservation try to please other people, but not God. They flatter and only say things that others would want to hear and not the things that are the truth. They attend the church only for God to keep them and keep them safe, and not thinking about pleasing Him. What is consciousness? Consciousness is what differs us from animals and allows us to understand our own actions and come to know our inner and external world. Consciousness is an integral part of a formed personality. I think we need to comment on this because this is the main topic of the fast. Could you please read this again? What is consciousness? Consciousness is what differs us from animals and helps us to comprehend our own actions, to understand and come to know our inner and external world. Consciousness is an integral part of a formed personality. So it means that active consciousness is the same as personality. So if you don't have active consciousness, there is no personality. It looks like a human being, but there's no personality inside. If we cannot be responsible for all our actions, even this fast. If we don't have a goal, if we're here just because we are part of the church, we have to be here. If you don't have a goal, like to get to know God closer, or to change something in your life, or to receive a better heart, you just came here because the time of the summer fast came, so you come here. It means that you are not responsible enough or conscious enough about it. We must always be responsible for all our actions. Why do I forgive my enemies? Why do I give money to God? Why am I obedient when I don't want to be obedient? It is because I think. It is because I have a head and a mind, a brain, and I know that God's laws work, and I've seen this in my own life, in the life of other people. There is this scripture that says, and to be in this state of readiness, to give the answer to those who ask you. So we'll not say, you know why I did this, you know why I did that. If if need be, we can defend ourselves and defend our actions because we think we have carry responsibility for our own actions, even if the whole world goes in another direction, in another way. Then we have to be able, if we're absolutely sure that this is from God, and we can remain alone, we still will do this. So this is an integral part. If we don't have it, if we don't have active consciousness, then we are not there. There is no active consciousness, there isn't us. Because we don't do things just like everybody else. We're not biomass. Jesus always wants us to be different. People usually, just by human nature, they don't want to be different. They don't want to be noticed. But God says that we are a special nation, we are a chosen nation, and He wants us to be noticed because He has put something in us, and through development of the mind we can change our generation and leave a trace. So the topic of the fast is how to always be in a conscious mind. That's why we need to always think about it. Yeah, I'd like to also say something. Pastor Sunday wants us all to be personalities who think, who have a conscious mind, because consciousness is what differs us from animals, and consciousness is something that differs a personality from a regular human being, or human being who has not become personality or biomass. So how do you check or examine whether you are in conscious mind? Do you realize who you are, your inner world, or do you realize who God is? It's very easy. The person who lives in a conscious mind has answers to everything that is happening in their life with them, where they are, why they are there, what should they do, and they know their calling. So they, through their thinking and analysis and uh, consciousness, they are able to answer all these questions. For example, if we ask any of you, why did God save you? Believe me, we will have different answers. Everyone will answer in their own way, and by these answers it's very easy to define whether you are a conscious person, whether you live in a conscious mind as a personality should, or you still live on the level of instincts. You could say, oh, I don't know, probably God loves me that much, and that's why He saved me, just to be in eternal life. So by these answers we can see the level, but a personality knows why it's saved. Personality knows why God brought you to this church. The personality knows the point and the goal for the purpose of life, and how to become somebody, to start living a conscious life as opposed to living like everybody else. So when you take all these questions and you think about it, and you will find the answers, and you start living a purposeful life full of God's goals, life of God's purpose and calling, with the right priorities and formed values, and that's how you become personality. That's why what Pastor Sunday is saying is extremely important for us and our church, because our church has a great responsibility, and we will not be able to change this world being biomass. We will not be able to influence this world just with our knowledge. We must become personalities, and every our step must be conscious. Every our action and decision should not be done by feelings, but by a conscious mind, and that's when it's going to be very strong. and powerful. And that's why I wish that you wouldn't have questions to yourself, at least in the most important things, like what am I living for? Why am I saved? Why am I in this particular church? Why is Pastor Sunday my pastor? Why is my leader, this and that person? And if you have answers to these questions, it's already, half work done. And then you will be strong. You have a strong position in your life. You are a strong personality, and then through this you will build your plans and goals and so on. So I want all of you to please take this fast seriously. This topic is one of the top topics. The highest is for VIP level, a VIP fast for people who indeed want to become great people in this life. Be blessed. I've just been having these thoughts lately. I've been thinking about this phenomena that some people leave from our church because it is more comfortable to be married in another church. Because here, the demands for you to get married, for to only to formed personalities, but people don't understand that it is just for their own benefit, for their own salvation. So many people, they come and they face problems and they forget that someday as you were registering your marriage, you promised that you will always love the other person, and at any time, which means that when you gave that promise, you gave that promise in your subconscious mind. You just repeat it after the pastor or the minister in your sleeping mode, and everybody clapped their hands and congratulated you, thinking that you know what you're saying. But when the everyday life comes and you start coming into your conscious mind, but it's too late because you already promised. or actually, there is no consciousness even in everyday life. So you see how, imagine that even believers, they leave their wife because saying that, well, the wife is not as cute as she used to be. But why did you then say that you will love her always? So you can't even be talking about divorce. You already told her that you will never divorce, that divorce is not possible because you will love her forever. Some people leave the church because they think, in another church it will be so much easier to find a wife or to find a husband. They're just running away from this saving, saving salvation. So we need to bring these people to the sober mind, and we are being trained and raised to be personalities. Sometimes you ask people, why did you come to the service today? And they can't answer. They can just say, because you're supposed to come to the service. That's why they don't have any results, because they don't understand why they need to come to church. And of course, what result can you have? Can you expect? Signs of forming of a personality. You are formed as a personality only when you begin to form your life principles and goals, when you build plans for your life, when you start forming your inner values, when you compare the things that you're being taught, how much they correspond to your inner values. You start living by the truth. So what is vigilance? It is well known that there are different levels of the depth of sleep, but not everybody knows that there are also levels of depth of vigilance, and which correspond to how awoken or awakened the person in their everyday life, and that of course influences their perception of the world. The same way a thermometer shows cold or hot, the, there are there is a scale of vigilance and sleep, where 0 is biological sleep. That's from Academy of Studying of Physics. Vigilance is the way to effective life. Usually people think that they wake up at the moment when they wake up from their night sleep. However, there is a different state of vigilance which is hard to recognize and which is connected to the high level of efficiency of our mental activity. The higher the level of vigilance, the more accurate our vision of reality will be, and therefore there will be more opportunities to achieve success. The scale of levels of consciousness. There are 5 levels, gradations of consciousness. Level 0 is the level of unconsciousness or biological sleep. Level 1 is the level of reflexes and instincts. Level 2 is the level of the actual experience of reality. Level 3 is the level of consciousness and active consciousness. Level 4 is the level of reflection. Level 0, level of unconsciousness. Unconsciousness is when a person is asleep and they are in the state of biological sleep. Biological sleep for a person is consciousness, but the level of consciousness equals to zero, because in this state the person is not unconscious. You can wake the person up. The person can see dreams, which means the mind continues to work. That's why the lowest level of consciousness is unconscious state. The person who is alive, even though God gave the person a soul and consciousness, may never be in active consciousness. The level 1 of reflexes, instincts, and stimuli. On level 1 of consciousness, the person is driven by instincts, reflexes, and stimulation. The person experiences everything that is happening with them on the emotional level, but they do not make certain conclusions or analysis, but simply lives their life. They attend parties, have children, earn money, and so on. Living by instincts. On this level of consciousness, a person does not sleep anymore, but simply reacts and living by instincts automatically on autopilot. A person lives by satisfaction of their needs. If they have a feeling of hunger, they eat. If they have a feeling of cold, they dress up. If they have a feeling of passion to another person, they start living sexual life with them. In other words, the person doesn't control themselves, they live by reflexes. For example, most people, being driven by instinct of multiplication, get married and have children on the level of physical attraction, but they never think about the future, what the child will be like in 10-20 years. They would never think about their life together, what the calling of God is for their family. For example of Pastor Sunday, before I got married, for 8 years I was preparing myself for marriage. I prayed, created conditions for family life, accommodation, and work. I was building God's values inside of me. And even before having a child, for 3 years, I was forming myself as a personality who is ready to live with another person, a child, and to accept him or her, which means to create a family. That's why I prayed to find out what plans God has for my future child. I prayed to know who it will be, a boy or a girl. I prayed for a good pregnancy, and I prayed for God to give wisdom to provide for the child and raise the child. I also prayed for the future and the destiny of the child for 20 years ahead. I found out the calling, who they will become, and for their family life. Level 2, the actual experience of the reality or living. The person who is on this level of consciousness is able to retell what happened with them in their life. They're able to actually experience their reality. They are able to remember feelings and sensations they had at a certain moment of time when they saw something or felt something. These people are able to learn a certain volume of information and explain it to others to pass an exam or test. Level 3 of the level of active consciousness. Level 3 of is the active consciousness. To be in active consciousness means to always be here and now, to realize and go deep and analyze the things that are happening. Not to be in the past and not to be in the future, but to admit to yourself, to recognize what is happening in the world around you, to connect your reality with the reality of people around you, to relate yourself to the reality around you, to bring your experience into the reality, and to take experience for the future. Level 4 of consciousness is reflection. The highest level of consciousness is the level of reflection. Reflection is the ability of a person to watch themselves. This is the ability to ask questions. Why am I behaving like this? Why am I reacting like this? It is the ability to analyze oneself. It is the ability to constantly see one's actions and give a sober evaluation. It is the ability to self-criticize and analyze oneself. Constant studying. On this level of consciousness, a person can study not only by books and programs, curriculums, because at this level of consciousness, a person studies every day. This person learns from everything that they see and hear. They make conclusions because their logic is very developed. How do you know whether you live on the level of an animal? Number one, when you live by your own self or with your own self. You live on the level of an animal when you are most of all concerned about yourself, your ego. You live on the level of an animal when you seek for things for yourself, for me. When you live on the level of an animal when you elevate your own interests above everything else. Number two, when it is when our comfort is above everything else. We live on the level of an animal when our personal realm, our comfort and convenience is above everything else. The person who is a personality will always elevate the interests of others above their own interests. A person who is a personality will elevate the goal above emotions and interest of people above their own interests. Such a person will love first God, then people, and only then oneself. Number 3, when we are concerned about our status and position. We live on the level of an animal when our status and our position becomes above all for us. When we are concerned about reputation more than destinies of other people. Such people usually live by the principle, I'm not my brother's keeper and I don't care that the whole world is crumbling around me. Number 4, when money for us are above all. We live on the level of an animal when money becomes above all for us, above other people, above God, and when we are ready for many sacrifices for the sake of money. Number 5, when we live by material values. We live on the level of an animal when we are striving to obtain things and other material values more than the values of the kingdom of God. Love towards material things is called thinism, from the word thing. Number 6, when we desire power. We live on the level of an animal when we desire power. People who hunger for power, who hunger for manifestation of their personal power and strength, when they hunger for the manifestation of influence, when they hunger for their own profit more than the benefits of other people, such people become like animals. Number 7, when we judge others. The level of an animal is manifested when we judge other people and accuse them in our own problems, when we are not able to understand them, other people, and cover them. It is important to remember the saying, do not judge others for sinning in a different way than you. Number 8, when we're not able to forgive. We live on the level of an animal when we're not able to forgive and let people go who are our enemies and debtors. Number 9, when we exalt ourselves over others. We live on the level of an animal if we have a feeling of exaltation or arrogance over other people, when all our actions are directed on to worship in our own self and the whole world is evolving around me, or worshipping me is life of an animal. Point 10, when we live in the zone of comfort. We live on the level of an animal when we seek for life in comfort and we place it above everything else. Worshipping comfort, we start to offend and be aggressive to people who have caused us pain, discomfort, and we consider them our enemies. Even when we know that they correct us by the truth and it's for our own benefit, we still get offended because it causes us pain. Number 11, when we live in hatred. The level of an animal is life in hatred. Hatred is fratricide, murder of your own brother. But we are called to love people, and if we do not have love, then we are murderers of brethren. Number 12, when we live in aggression. The level of an animal is life in aggression. We live on the level of an animal when we show the advantage of own strength and power through aggression and violence when we rely on our own strength. Animals show aggression when they defend their territory from invaders. The same way people defending themselves, they may behave aggressively. Therefore, we uh, when we receive everything with aggression, we react on the level of an animal. Conclusions. What benefit does this teaching give us? Number one, this teaching helps us to understand how a human soul is built. Number two, this teaching helps us to know truth about oneself and not to daydream. Number three, this teaching helps us to understand how the world is built. Number four, this teaching will help us to be more efficient in spreading the kingdom of God. Number five, this teaching will help us to develop the right inner values. Number six, this teaching will help us to be more effective in our relationship with people. Questions. Question 1. What is life on the level of subconsciousness? Question 2. What are the characteristics of a person who lives in subconsciousness? Question 3. Why is it that a true personality must live by the values and the truth? Question 4. What are the main differences between a man, a human being, and an animal? Question 5. Why vigilance is the guarantee of an effective life? Question 6. How do I know if I live on the level of an animal? Question 7. How do I know if I live on the level of a personality?